My name is Bob Neumann. We're sitting here in my place in Hawaii, and I'm joined by Murat Erdemsel, who has graciously agreed to allow me to interview him regarding his recent paintings and their connection to Argentine Tango. Tell me a little bit about your background and your history.
My mom is an artist, painter, and my father was a graphic artist and was also her teacher at the School of Academy of Fine Arts in Istanbul. And naturally, since I'm little, I was expected to be the part of that path they were following. And with that intention, perhaps, after I did my education in art, I ended up in Washington, D.C. and got my master's degree sessions in George Washington University for painting. Tango was already the part of my life. I started this in Istanbul before I moved to the United States. It's been about 13, 14 years. And quickly after, it became much more interesting than what I was doing that time in New York. So I ended up going to milongas and dancing, and eventually I started to teach and put art aside. It doesn't start with you, You have to have a life experience, You have to know how the things are around you and how you look at them. You have to learn yourself and study yourself and your reactions to things. Then art ends up being a beautiful tool for you to convey your own way of being. So that, in order to reach that, I had to branch out from painting and go towards tango and interacting with people and traveling the world and seeing things with the help of teaching and dancing while I travel. And it gave me that vision. So within that vision, it's much more meaningful to grab the tool called painting and do things with it. So I feel much more confident.
So it seems like from the painting you were doing and the tango dancing now, that you've actually come full circle around all this, and that if I may, it almost seems as though that's the fruition of your life, that there's a completion, a circle to what you have accomplished now. Is that correct?
I feel like I was meant to be in a certain direction as a child, and through the art education, which I'm glad that I went through all that, even though I didn't have certain consciousness about it. But I learned how to respect the nature, and I learned rules in the nature, with understanding how the lights and how the colors and how the keys that actually open the doors for you to understand how this beautiful thing is actually functioning. So I got to learn that, I feel like, and train my eyes and train my mind. And so then, of course, within that time, I had a band. We played music. We had great talents in that band, and we played blues and jazz music, and we kind of didn't fit in Istanbul that time. I remember, the bar owners were kind of, you guys are playing strange music, why don't you just play something that everybody loves, So anyway, that was one stage, which is part of that big curve that hasn't been a circle yet. And then later on, finally, tango comes in, and through tango, I could say, yes, learning tango, dancing tango, teaching music in tango, focusing more on the musicality aspect of the dance in our teaching, and eventually, in almost a pathetic level, incorporating some of the very basic, simple images that I thought could help students to understand the structure of the tango music. These were tiny little flash animations or tiny little JPEGs in the first site, and then later on they grow into a little more complicated graphics and stuff. But it came to a place that I said, why don't I paint these things? A painting, 5 foot, 60 inches painting could give me freedom to put everything I hear in the music, with all those brush strokes, with all those textures, and with millions of colors in front of me that I could combine and do this more accurately. So that is when I felt like the circle was completed, because very strange journey, if you think about it, going through these different things. And while some friends think that I was maybe concentrating on unrelated things or
Going
so.
off on tangents.
Absolutely, probably my parents or my best friends were, surprised about all that as we talk. But I feel like putting them all together and coming out with a lecture that talks about paintings or talks about the images. Therefore, you can allow the audience to visualize the tango music through them was the moment that everything got together, and that gave me a sense of comfort and purpose. I felt like for the first time, I actually have a good reason to paint. Yeah, and I look at my older paintings. I like how they look plastically, like they have all the, all the things that I have the pleasures, in art, but I had no consciousness about them. I was just free up in the air and didn't have any base or a pedestal to be sitting on doing those paintings. So I have that pleasure today that I'm following a certain line. I'm not painting because I just like them only, or I'm not painting because I want my artist friends to see and appreciate, or I'm not actually even painting for the art world. I don't want to say I don't care about it, but I paint these so that people can understand what I find in the tango music, and they can educate themselves. It's part of the research.
Can you talk a little bit about the structure and the composition of the paintings themselves? I know you're in service to the music and wanting to communicate accurately the intent of the music through the paintings.
When I mean composition is, how long that piece is, 3 minutes, 30 seconds usually, or where in the music that you hear the melody being more dominant, and where the rhythm more dominant, and where the singer starts to sing, where the violin or bandoneon plays the solo. So those are the things that those guys actually decided how it's supposed to be. I feel lucky and honored and comfortable about using that instead of reinventing the wheel, as they say.
So I noticed that you're in a dialogue with the artwork, that there's actually a communication, that you're doing something to the work and it is responding to you, and in a way it seems like that's a wonderful paradigm for the dance itself, that there's a dialogue with your partner, there's a communication that is going on. Can you speak a little bit about that?
That's right. You are able to look at it from more outside than me, perhaps, because I'm in it, I'm making it happen, and you're watching me doing it, and you can say, yeah, that's what I can see. It's wonderful, and yeah, that must be happening because, as I said, some of the times the physical surface of the painting and the plastic quality of the paint and I just take decisions, and we have that relationship there, while we even accidentally sometimes forgetting the music and what the tango song was, inviting us to follow. While I have that connection with the painting, which makes me think of two people dancing with each other, but they get so mesmerized with each other and they may be doing things, maybe it's not as musical anymore, but it is just so much about them, that connection, which is also beautiful. We cannot have everything happening at the same time, right? But then, yes, I do have that connection to the music. I do have that respect to the music. I do have that sense of being a follower to that great lead of Canaro's piece, and fit myself in it and find myself in that form. That's another connection. And perhaps, no need to say, the painting and the music have that connection, which is what we are trying to convey, which creates that beautiful triangle that the painting is not showing what I really do, painting is showing what the music did in those times.
I'm curious, has doing these paintings had an effect on your dance?
Yes, it made me study the music much more, and not only me, anybody looks at these paintings, they will be actually finding a parallel form, parallel universe, to understand the song in a completely new way. These paintings are the visualization of that song. It's almost direct reflection of the song, with a small amount of interpretation comes from me. So it has an educational quality in it. I'm very excited about everybody looking at these paintings and finding what the song is talking about, and finding more depth in the music, and clearly find in their dance.
What I was noticing in the paintings and looking at them were that there were these vertical connections. There were many things going on in one vertical line of the painting, and that to me that was very illuminating, because it allowed me to see things in the music that I wouldn't have normally noticed.
It allows me to see the bigger picture. Rather than listening to what I hear, it allows me to see what will be happening in the music very soon, or what did I just do and where I am in the music right now. It just allows me to open up to the past, now, and the future, and look at it from outside. Like the hearing is one thing, and the sense of sight is another thing. With a single image, which takes you about 2 to 3 seconds to comprehend the whole thing, it is giving you the whole idea about the song in a summarized way. And it's impossible to do that with a sound. I mean, I cannot play a song to 3 seconds long and say, this is that whole song is about. It's impossible.
So you mean the style of your painting has also changed?
In my older paintings, I had faster and more raw brush strokes on my paintings. And again, they ended up being much more neat and precise and much more shape-oriented. Rather than large paintings with blurry surfaces, now I have smaller paintings. It's about 60 inches, 5-foot painting, but compared to previous paintings of mine, it's still smaller. The shapes got smaller. My brushes are smaller brushes now, and the colors and the paint, I cannot just mix 2 things in one surface. I say like either this or that. So there's this neatness, and there's this, a fear to not fail from that existing composition is kind of making the painting a little more tight,
Which is required by the scale of the painting. You can't be doing big abstract expressionist brushstrokes when you're working on a small scale like that, right?
I find myself painting into small little boxes and stuff sometimes. It could look even boring. I end up getting close into the canvas and saying like, yeah, that has to be exactly right here. That's right, exactly there. A little more here on the right side, cover it, and it's kind of stiff in a way. Maybe it'll get more flexible later on, but it's very like under the respect and under that fear almost, that I don't want to fail interpreting such important, such beautiful song into my own interpretation of it. It's so interesting we're talking about this, because somehow it actually fits me more. I know myself and my personality. My friends think of me in certain ways, and I actually am bringing that out more when I have a painting that is neat and organized. I am like that. Like Michelle almost teases me at the airport. Whenever our plane lands, I take my noise cancelling sets, take the cord off, and wrap that cord into a one little perfect thing. I don't want that to be like all clustered. And from that to how I'm with my clothing, to my things in my personal life, and I like that organization. That's who I am. So these paintings somehow reflect my personality more truly, if I like it or not.
So thank you so much for coming and agreeing to the interview today. I've learned a lot. It's great to share insights with you and hear what you have to say about your work. And as always, it's wonderful to have you around, you and Michelle. It's great to have you visiting here in Hawaii, and I look forward to the next time you come back. And I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these images on your website and more of the paintings. Thank you.
Pleasure.
The water's gone. It's gonna be going. We did it without even trying. This is fun.